Hello, Peter. Lovely to see you today. For the benefit of people watching these clips, Peter Waller-Flynn is our expert, the DGB Collective's expert on everything to do with people. I think it's cradle to grave. Was that a fair comment?
That is a fair comment. I'm not sure I'm the individual expert, but we have got a fabulous team who deal with everything from recruitment, employment law, management, development and training, right through to retirement. So yes, you are correct.
Excellent. And we're in a really difficult period at the moment, and the collective is keen to be sharing our knowledge and helping businesses through this difficult time with any little hints and tips that we can give. And I know you've had some thoughts around that. So could I invite you to dive straight on in and tell us what you think businesses should be thinking about right this moment?
Okay, no problem at all. So look, it's employers are having to respond to an unprecedented change in the workplace. And I know we've had COVID, we've got the aftermath of COVID, that led to hybrid working and employers struggling with ensuring that they get maximum productivity from their staff. For many businesses, they're asking about how do you recruit staff and retain staff as well, because I know the likes of Indeed just aren't cutting it anymore. We've got a real shortage of labour in the workforce. And then I know now we've got the energy crisis, and some businesses are saying, look, we're worried as a business, how are we going to pay our energy bills? And I know leading on to that, I know they're then saying, look, our junior staff or maybe our lower paid staff, I know how are they actually going to be able to pay for their electricity, their fuel? And I know employees are really, really worried about that. And then I think finally, just to add to, I know our challenges as employers, we had the unfortunate death of Her Majesty the Queen. And we have a bank holiday on the 19th of September. And I know this morning I've had lots and lots of calls asking, how do we actually deal with a public bank holiday? Because this will be the 10th bank holiday that we'll have in this year. And for many businesses, that will pose a real problem financially, operationally, but also recognizing that their staff will want to be part of that national mourning.
It's a bit of a perfect storm at the moment, really, for employers and, of course, for employees who are, as you say, they're facing all of these increased costs themselves. And I'm sort of feeling that one of the things that you might touch on today is how to make employees' money go a bit further. And I think that would be very welcome, I'm sure, from employees' point of view, but also from an employer's perspective.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as you well know, Debbie, at DGB Collective, we want to provide those practical solutions for employers. We've all got our own businesses. We've got, I know, probably hundreds of years of experience between us all. So we want to make sure that we give you the right solution. And I know that can be so difficult when you've got all of these challenges together. And I think, I know if I'm going to give you just a few little pointers, I think, I know if we just touch on the bank holiday first, because I know that's probably the most pressing issue, certainly today, for many business owners. If you would like to put your details, I know, in the comments on the LinkedIn or the YouTube video, we'll very happily send you some guidance in terms of how to deal with this public holiday, because everyone's contracts will be written slightly differently. And whilst it's not a statutory right to time off, you will all need to consider the contractual obligations that you have with your staff regarding the treatment of public holidays. So rather than giving you a one-size-fits-all answer, we can send to you a very, very short sort of guidance whereby that may help you advise and guide your employees on what to do during this very difficult period of national mourning.
So what I'm hearing from you on that particular point is that there are a number of solutions depending upon the contractual situation, and that if any businesses would like to reach out to us, you'll very happily give them a bit more detailed guidance about what to look for and what their options are.
That's it exactly, Debbie, yes.
Okay, well, that's immediately, hopefully, something that will assist somebody listening to this call. What else is in your box of tricks, if you like, for employers, given the challenges that they've got? What about, for example, recruitment? Because there's this issue of getting people, attracting them and retaining them. Any thoughts around different strategies that employers could be looking at?
Okay. So I think we have got, I know, the biggest national labour shortage, particularly in some sectors and some particular skill sets. So as I said, I know for some people going to Indeed, LinkedIn, Total Jobs, Top Jobs, going through these virtual recruitment sites may provide them with the skills that they are looking for. But I think what I'm finding more and more through the guidance that we're giving our clients is that just isn't enough. We are going to have to do so much more. And I think, I know the tip probably would be either go to a specialist agency, and we have got a specialist recruitment team that will actually go and headhunt the type of individual that you're looking for. But I guess if you've got plenty of time on your hands, then actually you may be able to do that yourself. You may be able to go into LinkedIn and think about who are our competitors and who does that job that you're looking for in somebody else's business. Could you maybe approach them? Could you maybe just say hi and see whether you may be able to have a conversation with them? Similarly, I know you may still want to look abroad. I know the rules around home office immigration have again changed for certain skill sets. So again, you may be able to look abroad. So I know do consider that as well. But I think, and this is more longer term as opposed to the real now, you really do have to look at what skill sets have you got now? What skill sets do you need in the future? And then you really need to do that succession planning in terms of who do we need to develop within our existing workplace to be able to replace maybe the older workforce who may be retiring or leaving. I know you need to look at how you develop your new people or your younger people. And there is so much funding that's available still through European social funding that businesses can get. So if you are prepared to look at the medium and longer term and you are prepared to develop people in-house, there's tons of funding available. So again, I know, give us a call and we can definitely help you with where you might go for that.
So in terms of recruitment, perhaps you might want to think about being a bit bolder yourself and using the tools that are available to you or getting specialist input. And I think the other message that I'm getting from you is take a good look around your workforce and use the opportunity to upskill people within your workforce, which I guess that's a good strategy anyway, because if people feel that you're buying into them, that's a good reason for them to want to stay with you.
Absolutely. And it's a really good retention tool. I've done a number of retention workshops over the last few weeks. And this is really about asking your employees, what are we doing well? And what could we potentially do better? And this is something that employers can do themselves. They don't need an independent organization to come and do it for them. Although I would say that independence sometimes helps because employees are worried about giving I know their honest opinion sometimes to owners and to businesses, which is quite normal. But hey, I know, at least ask the question. And I think, I know, what I've got out of the last few weeks of workshops is people want to be recognized. They want to be thanked for the work that they're doing. They want to be developed, particularly our younger generation. What they're saying is money isn't everything. Yes, we've got to pay the bills, but actually we want to work for an organization where they are prepared to develop me so that I can move on in my career. And if you can show them the career path within your business that they could potentially have for the next 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, then that might be really obvious to you as business owners, but it's not always obvious to the people who've just joined the organization. So I know, do think about, I know, your new team. I know they may have a range of skills now, but what potential do they have going forward in terms of other skills that they may be able to bring to your business?
And when you're talking about recruitment, I'm assuming that the induction process is a pretty important part in terms of the impression that you create to those people that you're onboarding. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, lots of thoughts on that, Debbie. I think businesses go to so much expense to recruit people, and it's a very long process. And yet, I know what I still see time and time again is the employee lands and the employee is just so relieved that they've landed that sometimes they forget that they need to invest that time initially during that induction or during that onboarding process to say, look, this is how we do things around here. Here's your job description. Now, again, that might sound really obvious, but actually, I know jobs do vary in what an employer expects of their employees from one business to another. So just because somebody's been a sales executive in one business doesn't mean that the job that you have them doing, which may have the same title, is exactly the same. So you really need to spend that time talking through what your expectations are of the employee, what behaviors, what values are really important to you as an organization. And first impressions do count. So I know, invest that time in the new employee in terms of the onboarding, and it will definitely pay dividends in terms of a return that it will bring.
All very good practical tips. I'd be very interested to know what your thoughts are of how important purpose within a business is from the point of view of employees, because we read more and more about purpose, about it being central from the point of view of investors. Are you seeing that from a people perspective?
Yes, I am. I think, again, our culture as a result of COVID, I would probably suggest, is much more open, much more transparent. And the expectations of employees and managers is that there will be greater communication to them, particularly in terms of where the business is going. Employees want to know that they're part of a successful business, which is growing, where there's opportunities, and they want to know how they fit into that business. And particularly, I know businesses that are growing, I think, again, it's very important that directors share with their managers where they're going and how they intend to get there. Because, again, it can be very frustrating to managers when they get to an appraisal and they're told you haven't met your objectives. And the manager's like, well, I have met my objectives, but actually they were the objectives of 12 months ago. And the director's expectations have changed as the business has grown. And sometimes they may have forgotten to take their people with them. So the director's in fifth gear, and sometimes the managers are in second or third, simply because they didn't recognize the fact that their role needed to change as the business went through that growth cycle.
So really, communication is very important, and so much more important than you might think it is in terms of employee satisfaction. And that is something that businesses can change relatively easily at pretty much no cost, but might actually end up with a much happier workforce, reputational improvement. People talk to each other a lot, I think, about moving around these days. So it's an opportunity to have a pretty strong impact with fairly minimal input and no cost.
Absolutely. I know communication is key, but so is engagement. So I know if you're growing, well, that you haven't done it by yourself. Ask the team who've helped you to grow what their thoughts are. I know if you want to grow from £1 million to £2 million, why not get the ideas of the team in terms of how you can get there? But similarly, I know, and given the challenges that we are now facing in the economy, some businesses are really struggling financially. And exactly the same process still applies. If you think, oh my goodness, we're not going to make it. Again, I know I've been doing this job for a long time, and sometimes bosses and owners keep secret from their employees the dire situation that the business is in. And yet, I know those employees, if you're honest with them and say, look, this is where we're up to, guys, it is amazing and astonishes me every single time what great ideas employees have got for actually helping you, not only survive, but also flourish. So rather than making redundancies, actually those employees will usually be, not only very creative, but they're the people on the ground who are the ones that say, actually, you can save money by doing this process differently. Or instead of us recruiting that role, why don't two of us take on that job? So I know sometimes being honest with people about the situation, whether it's good or bad, can really, really help the organisation.
Great tips there. Just two last things I'd really like to ask you about. You mentioned earlier about considering recruitment from overseas. When you were talking about that, are you talking about physical recruitment, or are you talking about outsourced? Are you talking about people working remotely or outsourcing?
Well, the answer to that is probably both. So I apologize if I haven't been clear. I think if there is a physical requirement for somebody to do the job within your actual organization, then yes, it may be that you go and recruit from abroad or advertise your position abroad. But similarly, again, for many organizations, because of the fact that times are dire and they are having to reduce costs, employers want to shift from fixed cost to variable cost. And what that means in general is that there are some elements of your processes and systems that you can outsource to another company. And traditionally, that will be the likes of human resources or IT or finance. And rather than having a very expensive resource full-time within your organization, by outsourcing to companies such as us, then actually it can save you a considerable amount of money. And similarly, you will have access to specialists as opposed to maybe somebody more junior working at that level internally.
Peter, you mentioned earlier the possibility of helping employees make their money go further. Obviously, this is absolutely necessary from employees' point of view, but also extremely helpful from employers' point of view, where the ability to give pay rises at the moment, it's just so difficult because of all of the things that employers are facing. Have you got any practical tips that you could give employers around that?
Yes, of course. I think I know inflation's gone through the roof. We've got an energy crisis, which is going to result in huge increases to people's bills. And I know that is causing concern for a lot of employees, and we hear that day in, day out. And I guess on the back of it, we have to look as employers at some practical solutions of how are we going to support our employees. And for many businesses, I know they're not in a position where they're able to give a 10% increase. So I guess the first thing to do is look at your total package that you're offering staff, because sometimes I know people are saying they're going to leave for an extra £1 an hour and they're going to go to the competition. And when I actually look at what that business offers in totality, they offer better holidays, or they offer, better pension rewards or contributions, then actually the total package is generally much better. So I guess the first thing to do is be really clear about how much is the total package worth that you're offering your employees, and remind them of that, because most of the time, all our employees look at is their basic salary. But then I think, secondly, we need to do something practical. And there are a number of different employee benefits that are available for employers to buy at a very reasonable cost, which mean that employees will get the benefit of 10% off their local supermarket shopping. Or if they go to the cinema, then I know they buy one ticket and get one free. So there's a number of different schemes out there where you can help your employees make their money go further. And particularly with the supermarket shop, food prices are also very high. So, and getting 10% off Asda or Morrison's or Sainsbury's actually is a massive saving.
I understand that. Everyone I'm speaking to these days is telling me how much their supermarket shop has gone up, because it's one thing that we all sort of benchmark our lives by, that and petrol costs, really. So thank you very much for those tips. And would it be fair to say that if anybody wants to pick up on any of those, they can message us through the website or through LinkedIn, and we'll happily expand on that advice?
Yep, we've got loads of ideas and also different organisations to signpost people to, particularly if they are facing financial hardship. So yes, we'd be delighted to help.
Thanks very much for that, Peter.